Ukraine is a country in Eastern Europe that has a long and complex history. The region was originally inhabited by various tribes, and was part of the Kievan Rus state in the 9th–13th centuries. Later, it was dominated by the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, and then by the Russian Empire. Ukraine declared independence in 1917, but was soon incorporated into the Soviet Union. During World War II, Ukraine suffered greatly, with millions of people killed or displaced. After the war, Ukraine remained part of the Soviet Union until its collapse in 1991. Since then, Ukraine has struggled with political and economic challenges, including a conflict with Russia over the annexation of Crimea and ongoing tensions in the Donbass region. Despite these challenges, Ukraine has made progress in recent years, and is working towards closer ties with the European Union. The conflict in Ukraine started in 2014 when protests against the then-President Viktor Yanukovych's decision to pull out of a trade agreement with the European Union turned violent. The situation quickly escalated, leading to Russia's annexation of Crimea and the outbreak of armed conflict in eastern Ukraine. The conflict has been ongoing for nearly a decade, with ceasefires and peace talks failing to bring a lasting resolution. In this synopsis, we will briefly outline the main events and developments of the conflict in Ukraine from 2014 to 2023. In early 2014, pro-European Union protests erupted in the Ukrainian capital of Kiev after Yanukovych backed out of a deal with the EU in favor of closer ties with Russia. The protests turned violent, with clashes between police and demonstrators resulting in dozens of deaths. Yanukovych was eventually ousted from power, and a pro-Western government was installed. In March 2014, Russian forces annexed Crimea, a move that was widely condemned by the international community. This was followed by the outbreak of armed conflict in eastern Ukraine, where pro-Russian separatists seized control of several cities and declared independent republics. The Ukrainian government responded with a military crackdown, leading to a protracted conflict that has claimed more than 13,000 civilian lives and displaced over 8 million people. Despite several ceasefire agreements and peace talks, the conflict has shown little sign of abating. In 2015, a peace agreement known as the Minsk II Accord was signed, which called for a ceasefire, the withdrawal of heavy weapons, and the granting of greater autonomy to the separatist regions. However, the agreement has been repeatedly violated, and fighting has continued. In 2018, Ukraine's president, Petro Poroshenko, declared martial law after Russian forces seized 3 Ukrainian Navy vessels in the Kerch Strait. The incident marked a significant escalation in the conflict and led to the imposition of further sanctions on Russia by Western countries. In 2019, Volodymyr Zelensky was elected as Ukraine's new president on a platform of ending the conflict. He has made several attempts to restart peace talks with Russia, but progress has been slow, and fighting has continued in eastern Ukraine. In 2022, tensions between Russia and Ukraine reached a new high when Russian forces massed on the border, leading to fears of a full-scale invasion. In April 2022, Russia launched an attack on Ukraine, leading to a full-scale war that has continued to this day. The conflict has claimed thousands of lives, and there are fears that it could escalate further. The conflict in Ukraine has been ongoing for nearly a decade, with no clear end in sight. The annexation of Crimea and the outbreak of armed conflict in eastern Ukraine have led to a protracted conflict that has claimed thousands of lives and displaced millions of people. Despite several ceasefire agreements and peace talks, the conflict has shown little sign of abating. The recent escalation of tensions between Russia and Ukraine has led to fears of a full-scale world war, and it is unclear when or how the conflict will be resolved.